I've never even thought about going back to WWE, honestly. I had a couple runs there and it ended the way it did. Everything that I've gone through the last couple of years, and then also seeing Shelton, Carlito, MVP, all my buddies. What is it that we're always looking for? We're looking for that oh shit moment. The Bobby Lashley scenario is fascinating because
everybody knows that the Hurt Lock is the master lock and that he's the first person to break the master lock.
Yeah. That's what it's about.
So this is a really interesting one today because I think there's a lot of people who haven't seen Chris Masters since he left WWE back in 2011. Truth is, he's become a completely different pro wrestler in that time, and he's doing some amazing stuff right now in NWA, and maybe, just maybe, we'll see him make a return at the Royal Rumble. What do you think? Now you'll have to forgive me because I'm just finishing up my Factor meal here. This is honey mustard chicken. The meal's just arrived and oh man, so good, so easy, so quick. Look, it's a new year. I know a lot of people are making New Year's resolutions about eating better, getting into shape, and Factor is here to help. They really help you save time so you have the energy that you need to tackle everything on your get-to-do list with Factor's ready-to-eat meals that are delivered straight to your door. So check out what I've got in my fridge here. There is over 36 chef-prepared, dietitian-approved weekly options, and there's always something new to try. Maybe one of your resolutions is that you want to save money, so cutting back on takeout is an amazing way to do that. I mean, just get Factor instead. Not only is Factor cheaper than takeout, but meals are ready quicker than restaurant delivery. They're ready in just 2 minutes. And I love that it cuts down on those grocery trips. It also takes all the guesswork out of like, all right, what am I gonna make today? Okay, I'll have this ingredient and this ingredient and this one, and I'll cook them all together. 2 minutes and you're eating an amazing meal, just like this one here. It makes it so easy when I'm traveling because I just pack a few of these with me and then I've got a meal with me anytime I need it, right there on the go. So if you've been looking to step your meal game up in 2023, Factor is here to help. Head to factor75.com, use the promo code CVV60 and you'll get 60% off your first box. That's factor75.com. The promo code is CVV60. Man, 60% off your first box. Huge shout out to Factor for supporting the channel and helping us to create content like this. And huge shout out to you for supporting Factor, which then helps to support me, and it all kind of goes around here in a circle. I love it. Factor75.com. The promo code is CVV60. Now let's get to the masterpiece, Chris Masters.
I feel like anything could happen here in Hollywood. Like right before we started, someone was trying to deliver randomly food to the door here. This is, and now we're making this happen. We're making this interview happen here.
Actually, I ordered Uber Eats is what it was.
We should have done that.
I thought it would get here in time, but unfortunately starting the interview. So.
No. It's so good to see you again and I'm so glad we're able to do this in person. The last interview we did was great, but it's never the same over Zoom. It's never the same.
Well, and it was in the middle of the pandemic, wasn't it?
Yeah, and life's a little bit different.
Yeah, very different.
Like we're totally on the other side of that, at least in terms of like being able to meet in person and do this stuff now.
Thank God.
Yeah, and what people don't know, maybe they've seen the clips online. We did a little workout, Gold's Gym workout. We did that last week, technically last year. And this is a good little teaser to go check that interview out, that podcast, that workout out when it happens. So,
I did want to ask you now that you brought that up. So, how are your arms feeling?
Yeah, it was pretty deadly.
Well, I mean, you did also take a master lock at the end. So, between the arms and the neck,
yeah,
you doing okay?
I was hurting.
Hey, man, you were in some street cred taking that master lock though. Although
that thing's no joke.
Hey. You tried to give me the sweet chin music.
Yeah.
It was more like sweet shin music, but it's okay.
Oh, come on.
Hey, you're taking a lot of heat online.
I posted that clip and I'm like, oh man, I'm so proud of this. I go for the sweet chin music. You were turning around into a master lock. I can't get out of it. And there's all these people online. Everybody's a hater online.
Yeah, you thought it was going to be like your barbershop moment, right?
I did.
You thought you were going to super kick me and then throw me through the window at Gold's Gym Venice, but
no,
that wasn't going to, I saw it coming.
The best thing is you catch my super kick and you go, are you kidding me?
I did.
And then you turn it into the master lock.
I was like, oh my gosh, how could he do this? I just put him through a masterpiece arm workout. I just taught you secrets that I've acquired over the last 20 years, and then you're going to repay me like that. Unbelievable, Chris.
I'm so sorry. But I will stand true to I've never met a Chris that I don't like.
And we did talk about this, and that is saying something because there's about 1 million of us. I mean, it's not a unique name at all.
I don't know about you. I'm named after my grandfather. So like my parents, which I'm obviously incredibly honored to be named after my grandfather, who's an incredible man and who's still with us. But I feel like my parents weren't really trying here, It's like, that's good enough.
Yeah, no, anybody who chose Christopher or Chris for a name, they weren't trying hard
when we were growing up, Christopher, Michael, Jonathan, when the teacher was reading the names, there was 3 of each of those at least in every classroom.
Did you? And you're Christopher as well.
I'm Christopher, yeah.
But are you okay with Christopher, or were you as a kid?
As a kid, my mom forced people to call me Christopher. Like my friends would call and be like, "Hi, is Chris there?" She'd be like, "No, but Christopher is." And I'd be like, "Come on, Mom, come on." What about you?
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't like Christopher. There was something about the tougher that got to me as a kid.
You've got a lot of syllables between your first name and your last name too.
Yeah, well, that's why they changed it to Masters. They were like, this is too much. Christopher Todd Mordetsky. So what do we got there? That's 6, 7.
That's a lot of syllables.
It's too much. Chris Masters 3.
Who came up with that?
Adonis as well.
That's an extra one.
Actually, you know what? I just found this out recently. I just walked into OVW one day and they just told me my name was Masters, but I never really investigated who came up with this Masters. It was just given to me as you are this.
Yeah.
It's like, okay. And then Dr. Tom now works with us, Dr. Tom Pritchard at NWA, and he actually told me the story about how he came up with Masters, and it actually came from another wrestler. Forgive me, Dr. Tom, I can't remember all the details, but he told me the story about how he came up with it. I was like, wow, I'm finding this out 20 years later. This is amazing.
I can't believe you didn't know that before.
No, I mean, honestly, that's how it happened. I walked into OVW. Nobody told me who came up with it. I don't even remember. I guess it might have been Dr. Tom who told me initially, but they just told me, you're Chris Masters now. That's how it works.
There were a lot of comments on that video that not only were they making fun of my super kick, but there were people that were doubting that you were Chris Masters.
Yeah, like the Ultimate Warrior when he came back at WrestleMania 8 that one time.
A fake Ultimate Warrior?
Oh my gosh. By the way, I never fell for that. When he came back, I was so fired up, and I always believed that was him.
Why did he look so different?
Oh, it's just, the hair was shorter and he was about 10, 15 pounds lighter. So, and that kind of goes to what you're saying. Some people they saw me and they're thinking, they'll always identify me as that 275-pound huge guy that they first met back, in 2005. But, I'm a very different guy now. You know what I mean? And I feel like I'm still a stud, but I'm not, I'm not 275 pounds. I'm 260 pounds. I'm more, athletic as opposed to just being muscle bound and, more comparable to the workers that I really looked up to and emulated when I was growing up more. So, but then again, I did love the Ultimate Warrior. He got me into watching wrestling, but as time went on, the guys who I really just looked up to and admired were the Mr. Perfect, Flair, Bret the Hitman Hart, Shawn Michaels, of course. Those were my guys.
But it's interesting because those were your guys, but it was your body that got you noticed. It was your body that got you in. And then, you just kind of by default become a body guy then.
Oh, yeah, totally. I didn't even see that coming, honestly. I just knew that when I first started in UPW, I started the same day as John Cena and this other guy, Basil. And I had already started working out, you know what I mean? But I wasn't, and I had made progress, but I wasn't ready yet. And when I got there, I saw the way those guys were built. And also, just like all the wrestlers we grew up on, it wasn't any big secret. I got to really kind of invest time in the gym and really build myself up. But like you said, I didn't really see that coming. I didn't think I was going to be a body guy, so to speak, but I kind of figured that out pretty early on. When I got to OVW, oh, you're kind of falling into this class, because everybody was muscular, but it was I was on that level, oh, well, you're a straight up body guy, you know what I mean?
Because from here up, delts and traps and chest, you were gigantic.
Well, yeah, and you know what separated me, and a lot of people don't realize it wasn't even the size. It was really the muscle maturity that I had for such a young age. Guys don't usually have that. They can be big and, it can still be impressive, but to have that mature look where you're vascular and shredded and all that stuff.
That's a good point, because you were what, 23, 22?
22, yeah. I really, by the time I was 19, I was basically kind of masterpiece shape. You know what I mean? There was a transformation that happened from 16 to 18, because I got hurt. when I first went to wrestling school, but I saw Cena and I saw that other guy, Basil. And, I had surgery on my ankle, but then I just realized like, okay, I got to really, let me step away from wrestling. I'm too young. I'm 16. I'm already hurt. And let me focus on the weight training aspect and maturing just as a person. You're only 16. So, and I took up bodybuilding as a hobby. And that's what kind of, is funny because it led to all this, like the body guy has this kind of, context of like, somebody who doesn't like appreciate wrestling or wasn't a fan or just got in because of their body. But really for me, it was, I've always been a wrestling fan since I was yay tall, since I was 7 years old. So like, for me, that was the only thing that kind of bothered me about the body guy stigma. It's like, oh, you know what I mean? Like it kind of hurt for fans to think that I was just some guy who was gifted with a body who got in. Like, no, I started working out because I wanted to wrestle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I ended up, falling into that. And that's fine. You know what I mean? Hey, like you said, it was my ticket in.
Sure.
The fact that I was built like that and that, like, it was my ticket in. And
do you remember your first impressions of John Cena, the first time you saw him in UPW?
Oh, just, impressive, just physically so impressive, and, big personality, just like, everybody knows now. And, I think everybody just kind of felt like he was going to have some degree of success. But I mean, I don't think any of us really knew that he would necessarily be like the Hulk Hogan of this generation.
Yeah.
So, but it was funny, man, because I can still remember how us in the ring training those first couple months and just, you can only imagine how clunky it was. And just like, I had this flashback, there was a guy named Andrew Bernardsky, a good guy. He was on, he played Leatherface on the Chainsaw movies. He was on the program. A lot of people know this guy. He's a big guy, but he's training for wrestling. He went to leg drop Cena from the second rope and literally landed with his ass straight on Cena's head.
Oh my God.
Yeah, like he almost ended the franchise before he ever became the franchise. You know what I mean? And, so, those were just, I don't know, those were my impressions, you know what I mean? Like, and then, by the time I came back to UPW, like Cena was already on his way. So It was kind of like, we were always a couple of years kind of behind each other. And, we were never really close though, but, which was always interesting. We're just very different guys.
The really interesting thing about the era of WWE that you came up in was the era of the vignette. Like you were over before you even debuted. And that doesn't really happen anymore.
No, it doesn't. Yeah, those vignettes were cool too. I remember I saw those not too long ago because I know that Conrad Thompson did a Something to Wrestle with Bruce Pritchard, and they used those vignettes to kind of promote it. And I was like, oh my God, I haven't seen these in like years, but they were pretty cool, right? And
so cool.
I was even having flashbacks to because I was on this rotating platform, and I remember Vince coming in and directing the whole thing, and
Vince must have loved working with you. Like you were exactly what he was looking for. I feel like.
Well, I wasn't. If you think about it, remember, for a while there, WWE was kind of straight away from body guys a bit because of the whole 1993 trial and everything. But like, I also still look like an athlete. And I know for certain that I reminded Vince of Paul Orndorff to the extent where they even had Paul Orndorff work with me when we did WrestleMania 21, coincidentally out here in LA. Which it's going to be here again now, like 20 years later.
I love how they pretend it's in Hollywood. Like
well,
WrestleMania in Hollywood, it's like, not really.
You know how it is. It's
like
branding.
40 minutes away.
It's branding. I feel like you could just as easily say Los Angeles and it means the same thing.
That would make a lot more sense.
I think so too. But like, anyways, what were we?
Paul Orndorff in WrestleMania 21.
Oh yeah. It was really interesting though. So like, they have the ring set up for WrestleMania, like, so you can, if you need to go over anything or whatever.
Yeah.
And so, but they specifically designated some time for me to work with Paul, which was, looking back, unbelievable, right? To be able to work with Paul Orndorff. And I just remember him trying to teach me about like real intensity and how to translate that in the ring. And me just being so young and green though, that it was just so, next level for me. Like I wasn't, I was hearing it, but being able to receive that as a 20-year-old and under all these different circumstances and pressure, like, it's like what he was trying to show me, I think, is what you build up when you go through life. You know what I mean? Because you build up this edge from like, because good stuff happens, but also bad things happen, right? And then those bad things, you build those calluses and like you build that rage, that anger, and not necessarily negative anger, but anger that can be channeled in positive ways, like through pro wrestling. So I just think I was like too young to really receive what he was giving me, but it was still useful, obviously, information to take in.
And you were on the fast track to success in WWE, and I wonder how different your path would have been had you got signed at 28 or 29, like after you had spent some time finding yourself and then going to WWE and having these lessons taught to you.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, so my whole goal when I was around, we were talking about that time when I was like 16 to 18 was I knew what I wanted to do, and I just wanted to get there as young as possible. And I did that.
Yeah.
But so when I feel like there's a lot of value though, and when I talk to kids now, I will tell them you might not, let's say you do want to be a wrestler and you don't see I don't see any use for school now because I want to do that. But the thing is whether you're going to use that history class or literature, in school, you pick up life skills that you need to carry on into your adult life and your profession. Yeah. So you might not specifically need certain things, but you are still acquiring tools. And so I tell kids, I'm like, that's great if you know what you want to do. That's one of the greatest things ever. Cause it's hard if you don't, right? I've seen it.
For sure.
But don't fast track it, go finish school, go through, whatever you need to. I'm not necessarily saying you have to go to college, but in my case, I didn't even finish high school. Once I got to from the 10th to the 11th grade, I knew 100% I wanted to wrestle. I started working a job. I just didn't prioritize school. And it just got to the point where it didn't even make sense going. You know what I mean? But I'm happy to say now, I tell kids, do that because then you can always go into whatever you want to right after. There's not a big rush, you know what I mean? But you fast forward now, and last time I was talking to you, I was staying with my dad in Michigan during the pandemic, and I started going back to school. I decided, you know what? These are life skills that I still need to pick up. They might not apply, it might not translate to a job for me, but hey, why not learn history? Hey, why not, improve literature? Hey, why not see if you can pass a math class, you know what I mean? Which I was able to do all those. And it was really a great confidence booster for me because I hadn't been in any kind of educating, circumstances in 20 years outside of wrestling and critiquing wrestling and psychology of wrestling and all that kind of stuff. So for me, it almost felt man, do I even have the attention span to get through a math class and pass it? And, I did. So that was amazing.
Is this to get a college degree?
No, I was literally, we were in the pandemic and, everybody handled the pandemic differently. You know what I mean? It was a tough time for all of us, but for me, the first few months were very tough, you know what I mean? Because you don't know, you have no money coming in, especially as an independent contractor. I went through a breakup with my girlfriend, who I believe. And, so then, I went to stay with my dad and I just started thinking of what can I do productive in this time to better myself? And I just started thinking to myself, because, it just kind of felt like my ex-girlfriend had always stressed growing as a person to me. And I didn't understand what she's saying. I'm I am me, love me for who I am. But it was finally after we broke up and, going through that. And then honestly, getting all that time for reflection, because we all had that whole pandemic and you handled it how you did. It's it really gave me time to reflect on the last 15 years or so of my life and kind of what I had done and not done and what had derailed me. And, I just knew that I had to do a lot of things to kind of get my stuff in order. And so that's where the education thing was strictly just for the education. It wasn't for any outcome or I'm going to go to school for this trade. It was literally just to have it.
So that's where it began. That's where the personal growth began, was with going back to school.
Yeah. Well, and I didn't even anticipate it. Again, it was just I got away from here in LA. I got to Michigan. I was staying on a lake, and it just gave me a chance to okay, now I can settle my thoughts. It was far less busy than it is here in the big city.
Yeah.
And it just, a lot of things happened. I did that. There was a lot of debts I had to settle, all kinds of little things like that, life things, you know what I mean? And then, another thing, one of the most important things that happened too was all this personal growth is going on as far as educating myself and just, just overall awareness of okay, who I am and what has happened to get here. And one of the huge things for me was getting in touch, not just the personal growth, but professional growth. And that came from getting in touch again with the wrestling fan. The guy from before, you know, because you get into the wrestling bubble and it's hard because then it's your job and stuff like that. So like, I really spent a lot of time reflecting on stuff, but I also got in touch with like the 7-8-year-old who just started watching wrestling and
like the 7-8-year-old version of you.
Yes, of
Wow,
me,
yeah.
exactly. And like, what did he love about wrestling? What did he like about his favorite performers? And like, you know, I essentially became a fan again for a point in time there. But then like, it was just more about like, how do I translate that? Like, how do I make that 7 or 8-year-old a fan of Chris Masters, the masterpiece, or Chris Adonis? And like, you know, I just started looking at all the different aspects of wrestling. You know what I mean? There's so many different aspects, whether it be your gear, your presence, you know, politics, you know what I mean? Even just like selling, like, and just, you know, just seeing how like what I can do, like what mattered to me as a fan, what mattered to me and what can make me a fan of Chris Masters. And so like you know, through that, it gave me a chance to kind of evolve a bit as a performer, you know what I mean? And some things just kind of fell in my lap, but you know, it was just, and NWA obviously came along too, which has been a tremendous place to work and a great place for me to kind of show who I am in 2023 now, which is, you know, a very,
You can see in the ring, like you've had a lot of growth. And that's zero disrespect to Chris Masters and the work you did in WWE. But if someone hasn't seen you wrestle in 10 years and they tune in now,
they'd be shocked.
Absolutely.
Well, and that was the thing. Like, I just knew that, like, okay, through all of that, I started figuring out, like, what can I do to change my gear or just, you know, all those little things. But then it was also like, all right, man, like, you, for the last 15, 20 years, you spent a lot of those years not being the best version of yourself, whether it be because of drugs or just lack of focus or whatever. And like, you know, and you always had in your mind, because you got in so early, like, oh, I have so much time. But the thing is, you know, I knew coming out of the pandemic, it's like, no, the level of urgency is, this is it. Like, I need to come out here. There's no holding back at this point anymore. There is no tomorrow. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm 39 years old, but like the beauty of that is I'm in this unique position where I have 20 years of pro wrestling experience from some of the best ever throughout that. And I also haven't reached a physical decline. So like I have this kind of like this point in time where I can really capitalize and I think put on some of the best work of my career. And so like I'm just taking advantage of that. And again, at the bare minimum for me, this sport, this line of work is so important to me that even if I didn't get a big opportunity again in, you know, whether it be WWE or whatever, it's important to me to be able to look back on my last few years in professional wrestling and know that, like, and be proud of that body of work. You know what I mean? I want to be proud of all of it, obviously, but really be proud of it. Because, I mean, I can honestly say this. For a good first 90% of my career, I wasn't even a fan of me. It wasn't even until in the last year that I was able to watch myself and be like, you know, actually not be so critical that I couldn't watch it. And like, you know, making the Instagram reels was the thing that kind of actually made me do that in conjunction with all this. It's like, okay, so I have to advertise, you know, Instagram, we're able to monetize it, but also I want to advertise myself. Yeah. And so I was forced to watch my matches. And, you know, because a lot of times I got to the point where I would know if it was good or not. I didn't even have to watch it. And I knew I was going to be so critical that I was like, I probably just shouldn't. But now I had to. And like, honestly, it was the first time in my career I watched myself. I was like, oh, wow, that sell was pretty damn good. And then.
Yeah, your selling is so good now.
Yeah. And like and I don't mean that. That isn't meant to sound arrogant, because I had an aha moment there where you also realize that you have to be able to be a fan of yourself. You can't expect anybody else to be a fan of you if you're not a fan of you. And like, I realized that really quick. And I was like, oh yeah, this was an important piece of the puzzle that needed to be tended to. But like, you know, yeah, it came late, but you know, better late than never, right? But like, you know, it's an interesting thing to say, but like, you know, you need to be a fan of yourself.
Yeah, we're both the same age, and you turn 40 next week. I turn 40 in May. Does that number kind of mean something different to you when what you do for a living is so physical? You can't do this forever.
Yeah, absolutely it does. And that's why like everything I said to you rings true, talking about the urgency and all that, because, I do understand that at least, I've acquired all the knowledge and information, and I've been, I've seen almost everything you can see in professional wrestling, but physically, there will be a decline somewhere. You know what I mean? So, but I also then at the same time, I look at some of the guys in this business who are having the most success of their careers. Speaking of like Bobby Lashley and AJ Styles and
Jericho.
Yeah. Like, I mean, honestly, when you look at professional wrestling, it's the type of work where really you can kind of peak in your 40s because I mean, yeah, it's competitive, but we're competitive in a different way, right?
Yeah.
We do work with each other, and it's that kind of, and like, and honestly, it's such an art form that it almost takes that long to really kind of, I don't even want to say master it, you know what I mean? But exactly. But like, it's an art form that you're continuing to develop. And that's actually what makes it fun is like anybody who feels like they have this shit figured out in the first 3 years, the first 6 years, even the first 10 years. No, you don't. But that's the beauty of it is you're constantly learning and getting better because there's so many little aspects to it. You know what I mean? It's not just what you see. It's not just, it's a fight between two guys. It's an art form, man. The selling, the offense, the believability, you know what I mean? The showmanship, all of that stuff packaged together.
Since you brought him up, I feel like there's something there with Bobby Lashley, some unfinished business that could be settled in WWE at some point.
I'm glad you brought that up. Wow, you hit all the good points. Yeah. So, all of this stuff has happened, and like I've never even thought about going back to WWE, honestly, because, and it's not out of anything bitter. It's just, I had a couple runs there and it ended the way it did. And, I just realized that my love is for professional wrestling, even if it's not with WWE. But, with everything that I've gone through the last couple of years, and then also seeing Shelton, Carlito, MVP, all my buddies, I finally started, looking at it, and it was more out of this, what you just mentioned. It was more not out of Chris Masters coming back. It was more out of, because I remember through getting in touch with that young wrestling fan, I remember what is it that we're always looking for? We're looking for that oh shit moment. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like that Ultimate Warrior comeback at WrestleMania. And it's not to say anything I could do could measure to that, but the Bobby Lashley scenario is fascinating because I haven't been there for so long.
Yep.
But
everybody knows. Everybody knows that the Hurt Lock is the master lock and that he's the first person to break the master lock.
There's a lot of connections there. I'm kind of like a ghost from his past at this point. But like, I just feel like, in the right scenario, you have Lashley dominating with the Hurt Lock, and then you were to hear that OG Chris Masters theme. I feel like, and again, this more is, because everybody, I feel like since I've kind of started within last year and this year to petition for the Rumble, again, it's not as, I don't feel like I'm ever coming back to WWE full time. For me, it would be great to come back to the Rumble to, sort of make amends with certain people within the company, but also to show, like you were saying before, show the WWE universe the polished performer that I've become. And like, I wasn't able to do it there, unfortunately, but I did get there. And so for me, that would feel good. And like, again, but the biggest thing being about that oh shit moment of having that moment of me coming down the aisle and having like some guy, sitting next to his buddy, slap him in the chest, like, oh my God, it's Hurt Lock, Master Lock, it's going to happen. Yeah. That's what it's about. So like, it's really not out of a place of selfishness or like, let's have a Chris Masters come back full time, but like for all those reasons, it would be awesome.
What are your thoughts of Bobby Lashley using the Hurt Lock?
People ask me this all the time. I mean, like the thing is if you were to look at the situation and you see that Bobby Lashley was the one to break it, it only makes sense for him, if with me not being there, to kind of be the guy to adopt it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it doesn't change the fact that the Master Lock is the OG. And I know a lot of people are going to bring up Hercules and Ken Patera, but we're talking about in the modern era, ladies and gentlemen.
Sure, yeah.
So, I mean, I think Hurt Lock, Master Lock would still be kind of interesting. But like, it only makes sense for Bobby. I've never came out on like some dirt sheets and buried Bobby. And like, here's the thing. Think about this. I mean, from my standpoint, would you rather have Bobby Lashley adopt it or some guy maybe that they push for a month who doesn't even amount? I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, it's just one of those things where.
Yeah, if someone's going to use that move, Bobby Lashley is a pretty good person to be using that move.
Well, yeah, and I've seen, you've seen certain wrestlers throughout history, well, after they've worked somebody, will kind of adopt some. Like, you've seen HBK do that a number of times. You know what I mean? Like, after he worked Benoit, I think he used the crossface. I know that's taboo to even bring up, but so it only makes sense. And then him being the guy to break the master lock again, and he's such a physical specimen.
Absolutely.
So with all that being said, you can't really argue. Like, okay, if somebody's new to the full Nelson, he broke it. He looks the way he does.
Yeah,
he's like a mutant.
I can't believe that he still looks this way too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And
he's looked the same for 20 years.
Yeah, right. Like, it's like he hasn't even aged a day. And I remember him from OVW too. Like, so I've known him since way back.
He was my very first wrestling interview in January of 2007.
How'd that go?
I mean,
it's a little quiet.
It's on YouTube. I wasn't very good either back then. It's on YouTube if people want to check it out.
Isn't it funny watching your old stuff? Yeah, you're probably just like, oh my God.
Yeah, but I mean, it's the same for you. Like, if you're not watching your old stuff and you're cringing a little bit, you're not heading in the right direction.
Oh, I told you, I spent 15 years cringing. Jeez,
yes.
Like, I finally able to actually watch it.
Thank God. Even stuff from like 6 months ago, I'm looking at going, why did I ask it like that? Like, what am I doing? Constantly trying to push yourself and be better.
I think that's what it's all about, though. When you're
100%.
passionate about what you do, you're constantly trying to perfect it, and it's just the never-ending thing. But again, you just have to learn to kind of embrace that rather than I now that I have all this experience, it's funny because I go to these indie shows and I get a lot of guys in their early 20s and stuff, and they'll come to me for advice and stuff, and maybe something doesn't go right, but I try to help them see the beauty in that. It's like, the more of these kind of F-ups you can acquire and then have to kind of either salvage or work your way through, that's acquiring the experience so that next time you're in that situation, you're that much smarter in it. Yeah. So learn to embrace the mistakes. Everything's not going to be perfect and you're going to fuck up. And if you didn't, what the hell? You know what I mean? It's better to have some kind of feedback than nothing,
Yeah, and like you said, it's constantly learning. You have to adapt that student mentality. And I remember watching this docuseries about Tom Brady. It was called Tom versus Time. And he was 39. It was when they lost the Super Bowl and then ended up coming back and winning it the next year. And he was working with a quarterback coach, privately on his own time. And I'm like, the greatest of all time is working with a quarterback coach? And the quarterback coach was saying, people don't work with me to get a lot better. People work with me to get 1% better. Because when you're in the NFL, when you're in the WWE, when you're in the NWA, 1% is a ton. And that's something that's always really stuck with me, is just trying to always get a little bit better.
Oh, and when you say that, and I don't know if Brady maybe adopted some of this, it's Mamba mentality. It's Kobe Bryant. Because Kobe Bryant's, the whole idea of Mamba mentality is it doesn't matter what you do, but it's applying your utmost to it. You're doing it to the best of your ability and constantly improving yourself.
Yeah.
Every day it's a constant, every day you're constantly searching for a way to improve.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of a big thing that I've just adopted. It's for a long time it was just okay, okay, today I'll go to the gym. But now it's okay, you know what I mean? That's not enough. You know what I mean? Yeah, you've always done that, but you gotta, that's where the education thing came in. It was okay, I've been training my physical body for so long. It's wow, I got to put this brain to work, man.
Yeah.
What the heck, so.
And at least with the physical body, you can look in the mirror and go, oh, this is working and this is working. My arms are bigger, my shoulders are bigger. You can't look in a mirror and go, that book I read is really making me smarter.
Well, it's true, but then when you get the test results and you pass, at least you get that kind. You know what I mean?
That's true.
I gotta say that getting the email that I passed math class felt better than probably.
Congrats!
Yeah, it felt better than probably.
You're Chris Mathers now.
Ouch! That's gonna be hard to say.
That was a really bad one. But Kobe, what a loss! I remember hearing the news and just being like, man, what a huge loss, because for as good as he was in his NBA career, he was embarking on some incredible things in his post-basketball career. He just won an Oscar, and he was taken from us far, far too soon. And I know you're a huge Lakers fan, so I know it affected you even more than, the average basketball fan.
Oh man, I was so hurt I was so shocked by it that I couldn't even read it. I handed it to my ex-girlfriend to have her read it to me. It's like, is this real? Found out it was real, and then I just drove to the Staples Center. And me and there was thousands of others, which I knew there would be, and we didn't even say anything, man. We were just all out there mourning because what Kobe represented to Los Angeles, the only way to kind of like equate it is like if there was really a Gotham City and a Batman. It's like losing Batman. And so like, yeah, it was hurtful. And like you were talking about, like for a long time, Kobe like nationally and well, not internationally, but nationally was kind of a heel. But like post-career, he turned such babyface. He was like father of the year. He was helping all the NBA players. And it's like he kind of, when he stepped away from the NBA, you just saw that kind of that competitive edge kind of stripped away, but in the best possible way. You know what I mean? It was now, he was a much happier guy. He didn't always feel like he didn't have that chip on his shoulder as much. And he was more welcoming and giving to the world. And, so like, yeah, it was a huge loss. And like, now Kobe really signified to me the beginning of a lot of messed up stuff, because it was like Kobe happened, then the pandemic started, and then Shad Gaspard happened. And like, I always look back to those three things as the start of, wow, like a roller coaster ride of, all of that.
But those are three like big things that anybody can look at and go, wow, those are three unfortunate things. For you, those were three pretty personal things that in a time when we really couldn't hang out with other people or travel, or for you, do your job, that must have been tough.
Yeah, it was really tough. And it was weird because it was so different. Like Kobe was like, somebody obviously looked up to very much, but didn't know personally. So like it hurt, but it hurt in such a different way from Shad, who I did know personally, who was like a brother. And like, I'm not trying to compare or anything. It's just like,
well, they're both losses.
Yeah, it's just, but they're very different losses too, but they both hurt like, a lot.
Yeah.
And so, it was a really tough time. It was nice that a lot of people were able to come out for his funeral, even despite the circumstances, and being able to see, like Carly and Shelton and Mickey James. And there was a lot of us out here. So that was nice, but it was just a weird time. I mean, especially like the Shad story, for instance. I mean, both of them, think about it, like Kobe in a helicopter, like, oh my God. And then Shad, a beach day. Like people like a beach day, nobody dies on a beach day. It's just like, it's crazy.
And he saves his son's life. Like that's the part that's.
Well, I mean, he died a legend because of that too. And like, the thing is he invited me to the beach like a week before that, to hang out. So like, that's why and I lived very close by. I lived literally just a couple blocks east of where he was at. So like, I remember being out there and being very close to it in Marina Del Rey, which was very close. And then they hadn't found his body yet, and just waking up in the morning to walk the dog and just remembering like, God, my friend's just out there. And like, I literally did walks on my own with various people who were coming to the area. Like John Morrison came out and Kira, and we did a walk on the beach, and we were just like, if nobody, cause they wouldn't do the search 24/7, but like, you'd almost feel like a responsibility as a friend. It's like, well, we should just walk out there. I mean, it'd be scary obviously to find him, but like, it would also be hurtful to know that like we're that close and we're not at least on the beach looking, taking a walk down the beach in case, you know what I mean? So
what's your favorite Shad memory or Shad story?
Oh my gosh. You're putting me on the spot with that one.
But everybody just talks about like, he had this energy about him, and he was always just like a larger than life character.
Well, and that's what it was. He was like a brother. He really was like a brother to us. Like, cause any one of his brothers will tell you, like, he could annoy a lot of us, but like, he was exactly what you said. Like, he was always upbeat, always positive. Like, he was the guy, like I remember walking into the gym with Matt Seidel one time, and, we're very much on our zen, just getting ready to work out. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, and this was very typical of Shad. Shad comes from behind and bear hugs Seidel and lifts him up into the air. And, again, Seidel's on his zen, so he's not really feeling this kind of treatment out of nowhere. You know what I mean? It's kind of rocking his world a little bit. So, and Shad would do this stuff all the time. And that, like, and so, after Shad passed, I remember looking back at some of the stuff, and like, sometimes like, I'd always see him at the gym and I'd be like kind of annoyed because it's like, man, I just want to work out. He's going to want to chat. And I'm like, I just want to train.
Yeah.
But like, again, every time he came around, he was always so positive. He was always smiling. He was always upbeat. He was always so enthusiastic about the stuff he had going on, which again, that kind of drove me crazy because it was such an LA thing. I'm like, I didn't ask you all of that, man. I'm just trying to work out. But, it's funny how you look back at certain things and you're like, something that might have annoyed you in the moment. It's like, well, shit, man, he was that enthusiastic about what he had going on, man. Yeah. There's a lesson there.
I don't know if I've even talked about this, but I was supposed to interview him like 2 or 3 weeks before he passed away. I was in LA right before I moved here, and we were setting it up, and our schedules just didn't click. And if I could have made that happen, I would have. And I just feel like a real sense of like regret. Like that could have been such an incredible conversation. I wish I could have been able to share that with him, but I truly feel like everything does happen for a reason.
Yeah, it's one of those things like when you said it and it didn't happen. It's just like, well, what can you do? You would have never, meant to happen. Yeah, you would never have anticipated. And like the thing is yeah, Shad could have told you a lot, but man, Shad's actions before he passed told everybody kind of really what they need to know. I mean, you could always look further, but like his heroic actions and like that kind of tells you the character of him and how, he wasn't a selfish guy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was like, so even though you didn't get to sit down with him, I think, his story will be told for generations.
It's unforgettable. Yeah. So I got looped into some tweet the other day where NWA was asking like, who should get a title shot this year for the World's Heavyweight Championship? And I said, what about Chris Adonis? And then NWA says, we like the sound of that. And then Tyrus is like, you should be the special guest referee. So I feel like somehow here we have invented a storyline.
Yeah, you're being roped into this one. And like, yeah, big time again. Like,
I'm in.
Yeah, I just wonder who your allegiance is going to be to. But like, no, that's a serious thing. like one of my goals, we talked about like the Rumble and stuff like that. But, my real personal goal is like, through NWA and the work I've worked a lot internationally. I'm about to go to France. I just came back from Pakistan. Like it's honestly been, and I wrote this in a post, but like, and everything is perspective. But like I said in a post, like this has been by far the most fun I've had in professional wrestling. And it has because of everything I've told you before this. My perspective is so different coming out of the pandemic after getting in touch with the fan in me after, and going out there every night and having like pride and trying to go out there and put the best match out possible that you can. And you know what I mean? So, I mean, these are the things that truly motivate. How did I even get on this? Sorry.
Well, we're talking about you winning the championship.
Oh yeah. So that, through NWA the last year, and anybody can look at the tapes. You can go on YouTube and see the matches. Like I feel like I've put on some of the best matches career, and honestly, I feel like I'm one of the best workers in the business when it comes to believability, athleticism, selling, and like, I've just raised the bar and like, you know what I mean, in all those little aspects. So like going forward, I mean, for me, like my main goal beyond everything else is, to hold that 10 pounds of gold. I think it might be 12 pounds now just because they updated it.
Still call it the 10 pounds.
We could call it the 10 pounds of gold.
My friend Matt Schoolfield, who owns Fandu Belts, he designed the new design.
But here's the funny thing. When I got into pro wrestling, everything was so like handed to me. But like you fast forward to now, and even with everything I've just stated, it's like I feel like I'm having to work and like, just fight for every little scrap of anything I have to get. And that's fine because I'll keep doing that. And I'll keep going out there with whoever it is in NWA and putting out great matches with whoever you put in front of me. Yeah. And it doesn't matter, and as far as the NWA championship and Tyrus, I mean, it doesn't matter who I have to, they've got the whole idol management going on. They've got the great Scion. They've got Clearwater. Like I'll go through all those guys if that's what it takes to get to Tyrus with you as the special referee. Wow. And for the gold. So, I mean, this is my goal. This is what I'm working towards. And I feel like all of this is obtainable in 2023. Yeah. So I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing and let the chips fall where they may.
I am very curious how long Tyrus is going to hold the championship for. And a lot of people have been, they have their opinions about Tyrus being the champion. I think Billy Corgan is a brilliant marketer. And this is so good for business for that championship to be sitting there on Fox News Channel every single night. Like, you can't buy that kind of exposure.
Well, and it's not even, it's very much that, but it's also like, I mean, it's a heel stable, you know what I mean? Like, they have all the titles. I mean, it's like Billy Corgan is very smart, but it's like, you know, it's a formula that works. Like, you know, it pisses people off when one group is dominant.
People seem legitimately pissed off.
Oh yeah. And like, you know, I mean, it was controversial and it got people talking, and it's like, it is what it is.
Yeah.
But it's also an opportunity. I mean, like, for all those people on the internet, you know, that complaining about it, who would have thought that, you know, Chris Masters could be your beacon of light? You would have never imagined that 15 years ago when you're like, who's that body guy? So like, hey, I might be your savior. I know Matt Cardona says he's going to save NWA, but I say Chris Adonis.
I think people form opinions based on like certain things that stay in their mind. And for Chris Masters in WWE, a lot of people go back to that very short promo backstage where Triple H says some not very nice things about you, and they feel like he buried you there. What's your opinion on what he said there? And did he talk to you before and say like, hey, this is going to go down?
I was aware of it ahead of time. It's funny because this has come up almost in all of my interviews, but I mean, there's a couple ways to look at that. Like Hunter, if you've looked into, like, if you watch his history, I mean, he's very much a ball buster, even to HBK, right? His best friend. So, I mean, like, yeah, the timing of it's more like, it's not something that I don't think he would have, it was more, I think it might've been more about the timing of it than anything, just because of everything we had been through with, you know, you talk about the, you know, Eddie and then the Chris and then, you know, we were under so much scrutiny, and then, you know, I came back, you know, from rehab, and I was, you know, about 20 pounds lighter or whatever. So, I mean, it was just more about like, if it had happened at any other time, maybe it wouldn't have been, you know, as big of a deal, I guess. Cause I think, you know, I don't think, again, I just think, you know, he's kind of a ball buster. So it wasn't like, that's something he would have kind of said at any point in time. I just think it was maybe at that time, it was probably a bad time to say it.
Yeah, it kind of seemed like he was stating the obvious, like putting it out there. Like, I know everybody's thinking it, so I'm going to say it. But it just felt like...
Well, and that's what and if you look at a DX, they had a history of that a lot. I mean, even with the Spirit Squad, remember like the last time you saw them, they had, you know, shipped to OVW on the thing. I mean, it's very inside, and it's very, you know, some of the DX stuff is, you know, breaking the third wall a bit, and, you know, like it's whatever the hot thing is on the internet, like taking some kind of acknowledgement. So I don't know. You know, Hunter has also been very helpful and supportive at points. So like, it's just one of those things where at that point in time in my life, man, like I had just gone through like opiate addiction. And like, so like a lot of people, I can understand why I came back and people thought like, oh, he's off steroids. Look how light he is. But I swear to everybody, and I've told this story for the last 15 years, like that wasn't the issue. Like, and it's not to say I never used anything or anything like that. But my issue at that point was I had deeply gotten addicted to opiates.
We were off everything.
Yeah, oh yeah. But like, and what happened, like I went to rehab for the opiates, and like what really actually made me lose weight. And so there's a lot of people who say, oh, this is bullshit or whatever. But, you know, I was coming off all those opiates, and like, you don't have any like endorphins, you know, you don't have a life force anymore. So like I forced myself every morning. The first thing I did was put on some clothes, and I put my shoes on, and I ran. Like there was this trail. So it was like some Rocky Balboa stuff, but I ran like 2 miles every morning, something like that, on empty stomach. And like, I didn't really pay attention to how I was looking, because I was in rehab, man. We're doing, you know, we're working on ourselves beyond stuff like that. We're not, you know, I'm still going to the gym and stuff, but man, I'm trying to figure out, you know, how am I going to, like, I've never been addicted to drugs. I was so young. I was like, what is this? And am I really addicted? You know, you don't even know at that point. It was so early on. And so, really what made me lose all the weight was honestly that, like, if I hadn't ran every freaking morning, and even just being off the opiates, everything else, I mean, I would have still at least been probably 10 pounds heavier when I came back. It's just like, I didn't even know, honestly, because it's hard to look at yourself and realize, and then if you're not weighing yourself, like, I wish somebody had told me like, hey, you maybe lined up too much, like just eat a little bit, because then at least it wouldn't have had that dramatic thing when I came back. And, you know, because of my gimmick, everybody thinking like, oh, that's it. He just, you know, he's back from rehab and he had to get off steroids. It's like, no, man, like honestly, without the stuff and all that, like I could still be fairly like a big dude. You know what I mean? I could carry 260 pounds easily. But like, again, I just wasn't, you run on an empty stomach 2 miles every morning, watch what's going to happen.
Yeah. In 05, 06, do you think anybody looked better than you?
It was me and Batista, Cena.
Yeah.
Me, Batista, Cena, probably. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know where I fell on that, but like, yeah, I mean, when I look back at it too, man, like, I mean, it's impressive, right? But like,
hell yeah.
But like,
and Cena still looks like that.
Yeah, but like
for the most part.
Like, I look at it and it's just like, it almost reminds me at certain points of like Thanos or something. It's like, oh my God, you're humongous. And like, that was great and all, but and people will always point that out, like, oh, he's smaller now or whatever. But like, I don't aspire to be that guy. Again, like, I never aspired to be the big 280-pound guy who, staggers for tackles and just press slams people and is very just, you know what I mean? Like that type of stuff, man. Like, I wanted to be the guy who looks good, but can move, that can be the guy to create movement and like create an exciting match and not just be this force to be reckoned with or this base for everybody else to freaking be running around. Like, so like, yeah, that was great and everything and like impressive. But like, I know honestly, most of the women prefer me like this anyway. I must say, like the attention, like a lot of the guys were more impressed with that, but the women.
Funny how that works.
Well, I mean, the women like a big guy, but they don't want him like, veins bulging out everywhere. You know what I mean? They don't mind some of that, but like, like they want you to look at least a little athletic too and not like straight meathead, right? Like, at least that's what I found. I don't know. I get, I definitely got a lot more guys like, damn, how much you bench, or like feeling up your arms like, wow. But like at that size, but I get a lot more head turns from the females like this. So anyways.
What match should people go watch from the last, say, 10 years, 5 years, that really showcases what Chris Adonis is about now?
That's a really good question. I would say, well, there's a couple, but like, I'll always defer, and I know you're saying within the last 10 years, but like, the HBK pay-per-view match is always kind of a huge checkpoint, but that's going back very far. Within the last year, I would say, it's hard to narrow it down because, again, my body of work throughout the last year is kind of exactly what I wanted to be. And that was a guy that can kind of have a good match with almost anybody, if not put guys through their best matches. And like the perfect example I'll give to you that, and it's not, I'm sure he won't mind too much about this, but I worked Crimson a little less than a year ago, and it was for the NWA national title. I was the national champion, and we were in Kentucky. And it was basically like a home field advantage for him, like his family, a lot of friends there. So it was like a big deal. He was challenging me, and it was for NWA. And so like Crimson is good, you know what I mean? But like, he's one of those, he just kind of needed somebody to help bring him up just to that next level type thing. And so like we went out there and worked, and he kind of left me in charge of the whole thing. And like when we came back from that match, I had multiple people telling me like, wow, you just put Crimson through the best match of his career.
Wow.
Now I couldn't speak to that obviously because I haven't seen all of Crimson's matches, and I have always looked at Crimson like he's a talent. But like, after the fact, and I've seen this with, guys I've worked with even after that, it's just like with guys like that, it's when they're working me, what's fun is trying to get them, because, there's always this next level to get to. Yeah. And sometimes they don't even realize it, but then you get a guy like me who can kind of help them along with it. And that's just through experience I've acquired and whatnot. And so like, just to answer your question without going on too long a rant, I'll throw out that Crimson match. And it's not because we did any kind of crazy high spots or anything. I mean, it was a simple match, but everything was done well. And that's the thing I stress about my work is like, I'm not a high spot artist, but everything you watch that I do well, whether it's selling, delivering offense, and there's no waste in motion. Like I'm not reinventing the wheel, but then again, even when you look at some of the best of all time, like again, let's point out Shawn Michaels. What was it that he did that nobody else necessarily did? You can't really name something that he innovated that was just so out of the norm. Gentleman Chris Adams did the super kick, Macho did the elbow, but everything HBK did looked good. You know what I mean? And like,
And believable.
yeah, and and that's how, like, when I talk to some of my peers, that's what we talk about. Like, you know, when people stress kind of this new generation of wrestling and this fast pace and this high spots, is when we came up, like, you know, kayfabe is not dead, or it shouldn't be completely dead. You know what I mean? Like, what was important to us was when we're working that nobody saw through it and they believed in everything. And nowadays it's a little bit too much. I think guys have been too conditioned that everybody, oh, it's a work, kayfabe's dead. So, like, you know, we just need to do impressive high spots and all the in-between shit doesn't matter, where it's like, no. One thing that will never die in professional wrestling, and I'll thank Nick Aldis for this because he said it and it made complete sense. One thing that'll never die is the suspension of disbelief and trying to acquire that from the viewer. Doesn't matter what time we're in. That's what we're trying to achieve. And you can do that. You can do that despite how smart fans are nowadays. You can do that by going out there and delivering believable work, by putting everything behind every little thing you do, whether it's a club to the back or a fist to the face, doing it to the utmost of your ability. Mamba mentality.
I love this. Full circle on this. It's just been so great being able to sit down with you because it's so obvious, like, how much of a different spot you're in right now versus the last interview that we did. And also it's a great little tease for the workout that we did. Like, I did so many things during that workout with you, and I've been working out, you know, since I was like 15. I did so many things during that workout with you that I've never done, or I've never done them in that way before.
And we have stated that you are now a transitioning body guy. So yeah, you've been working out since 15.
Sure.
But the goal of being a body guy is still new. So we're taking this up a whole nother level now.
I don't know if I'll ever be a body guy, but I'm...
Hey, I don't know if Carlito never thought he'd be a body guy. And look at him
Carlito
now.
credits you for being a body guy.
And I credit me as well. I mean, I taught him everything he knows. And like, and it's funny, you know, we were talking about this before the interview, and not to get completely derail us, but like, you know, Carlito's comeback to the Rumble was just so hilarious because, you know, I've still been working with him all over the world throughout the last 10 years on various indies, but he comes back at the Rumble and just going on to Twitter and typing Carlito WWE and just grabbing a bag of skinny popcorn and freaking, you know what I mean? Just watching all the comments about how jacked he is and seeing the memes, like, man, that was hilarious.
Yeah, people were saying, like, you know, he's the best shape he's ever been in, I feel like.
Oh, yeah. And like, see, and that goes to what I'm saying, man. Like, you know, we talked about, you know, both being 39 or whatever, but like, you know, age is all about, like, you know, there is a fountain of youth, and that's, you know, not just the gym, but taking care of yourself. And like, you know, you look at guys like Carlito in his 40s, in the best shape of his life, in better shape than he was his 20s, 30s. Well, Bobby's always been in shape, Bobby Lashley, but look at him. He still looks great into his 40s.
A monster.
And then even, of course, The Rock. Look at The Rock. I mean, like, looks better than he ever did in wrestling, right? So
way better.
I mean, you know, these are the guys that, you know, everybody should, you know, look to, and that, like, you know, you take care of yourself. I mean, you know, you can still, you know, be good at that age.
Yeah. So I end every conversation with the same question. I don't know if I did this last time, so this will be interesting to compare your answers, but I talk about gratitude. And I wake up and I say out loud 3 things I'm grateful for every single day. So I end every conversation with that. So for you, what are 3 things in your life that you're grateful for right now?
I'm grateful for my health. I'm grateful for my profession, and I'm grateful for my perspective as a person at this point in my life.
I love it. Chris Masters, Chris Adonis, fellow Chris. Thank you, sir. This was great.
This is great, man. I appreciate it. It was a great time to have an interview with you. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, so, you know, this will be out, and then you'll debut at the Rumble or return at the Rumble. It'll be perfect.
That would be exciting, wouldn't it? Never know. Never know. We'll see. Thanks, man.
Thank you.